Here's a guide on how to get the Tony Hawk's American Wasteland mod ReTHAWed running on the AYN Thor. Now, I'll show you a couple of ways to do this. By far the easiest is if you have a PC, use that. If you don't, I'll also show you an alternate way, which is a bit fiddly, a bit more complicated, but still possible. So, let's dive in. So, firstly, for the PC side of things, we're going to need a couple of things. We're going to need the game, obviously, and then we're going to need the ReTHAWed installer itself. So, there is a website here where we can download the abandonware PC version of the game. This is neversoftarchive.weebly.com. So, I'll leave a link to this in the description. So, if we scroll down, we're looking for American Wasteland. So, we'll go and read more, and then you can use Google Drive or Mega and just download the archive. So I'm just going to use Google Drive. So it's 2.7 gig. This will run portable, so you don't need to install it. So we're going to download that. And then whilst that's downloading, we're going to head over to ReTHAWed.com. This is where we're going to get the mod. So we're going to just go to the download tab, and then we're just going to get the Windows version. So that should be downloading as well, yep. You can also get things like music packs, but just for the purposes of this video, I just want to focus on the installation and setup. So we'll leave those to download, and then we'll come back once they're done. Okay, so they've both downloaded. So the first thing I want to do is extract our Thor portable, which is the actual game itself. So I use 7-zip, so I'm just going to extract it to a folder in my downloads folder, and then what I'll do is I'll shift it over to the desktop just so we can keep things kind of together. So this shouldn't take too long. So whilst this is doing, I'm also going to extract our ReTHAWed installer using the same method, and that will just queue it up. So I'm going to make a folder on my desktop called ReTHAWed. I like having the proper capitalization. So 7-zip should nearly be done. There are absolutely tons of files in this, so this is why I advise doing it on a PC, because the ReTHAWed installer will have to download tons and tons and tons of assets, and it can take a while. So, like I said before, if you can, do this on PC. If you can't, then I will show you at the end of the video how to do it on the Thor directly. A lot of the process is the same, it's just some slightly different avenues. So now they're done. So I'm going to grab both of those folders, and then I'm going to drag them into that folder there. And then we'll open this one up. So if you just want to play American Wasteland, you can just launch the game, and it will just launch. Although I don't know how well it'll launch, considering it's what, a 21-year-old game at this point. So we're just going to go straight to our ReTHAWed folder, and we're going to run this updater. So it's going to ask you for the exe file. So we're going to go to select. We're going to go to that desktop folder. We're going to find inside our game folder this thor.exe file. So it's just going to confirm that, yep, the game's in there. And then from there, it's going to download all the files it needs. So you see here, 332 bundles will be downloaded. So this will take a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it running, and then I'll come back, and then I'll show you how to transfer it to the AYN Thor. Okay, that took a while, probably about 45 minutes to an hour. I just basically left it running and then came back. So what I'm going to do now, and this is what I advise is the best way to do this, is I'm going to transfer the game that I've installed over to my AYN Thor, but I'm going to do it wirelessly. So I did do a video covering this a while ago. It was one of the first videos I ever did on this channel. However, just to recap, if you've not seen that already, basically on our Thor, the first thing we're going to do is I use an app called Solid Explorer. This is a file explorer. It's completely free. It's better than the stock Android app, so I do recommend it. From there, once you've installed that, it's available on the Google Play Store, should mention. You scroll down and you look for this FTP server, and then you just press start. Now you can see there is an IP address here. It's just a local device address, so no need to censor it. I'm also using an app on my PC called FileZilla. And this is cross-platform. It's available on Mac. I'm not sure if it's available on Linux, or there'll probably be someone in the comments who will suggest a better solution. This is basically going to transfer things wirelessly to our device. So from here, what I'm going to do is the first part, I'm going to pop in that the first part of the IP address before the colon, that's our host. And then for our port, it's just the 4 digits after the colon, which is, in this case, 9999. Then I'll hit quick connect. The first time you do this, you'll get a little pop-up basically saying, like, is this okay? Is it secure? And then you can just give that the old thumbs up, and then you're good to go. So all I've done on here is I've made a little folder called Games. So that folder I made before, I'm going to OK that because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to copy this whole ReTHAWed folder. I'm just going to drag it over, and I'm going to let that run. So there are 27,000 files to transfer over. So if you were to do this via USB, it would take hours. However, what I'll do is I will leave this running for now, and I will pop back shortly. Okay, so now we've all transferred that over to the device itself. So I'm going to now boot it using GameHub Lite. So if you've not seen any of my videos before, or you're not familiar with GameHub Lite, it's basically a way to emulate Windows games, which is why we've been downloading the Windows versions. So first, you'll need OBTAINIUM. If you don't have it already, OBTAINIUM is an app to basically monitor GitHub links and manage updates for you. So there'll be links to OBTAINIUM and then the pack to import as well. So I'm looking for GameHub Lite. So I've already got it installed, but it's just there. You can also use Game Native, although I wasn't able to get this working with Game Native. So it might have been a setting that I forgot to enable, but for the purposes of this, I'll just be using GameHub Lite. So I'm going to open up GameHub Lite. So you can sign into your Steam library and download your Steam games. But for the purposes of this, we're going to be using the PC emulator, and we're going to import a PC game. So we're going to click here. We're going to enable the access to access the files. And then we're looking for that games folder, ReTHAWed. We want to be in the THAW portable inside the game, and we want this ReTHAWed.exe. So we'll just leave it as Tony Hawk's American Wasteland for now. It's going to download some firmware and some first-time setup files to make sure that it's compatible. Shouldn't take too long. One thing to note as well, you can use the updater if you add it. However, it can be a bit finicky to do on the THAW. So the best thing to do is just keep it updated on the PC and then transfer the files over every so often. Okay, so I think that seems to have done. So if I go into, so there's our game there. If I go into our little 3 dots and go into settings. So we can see everything by default should have been set. So the one thing to be cautious of is this GPU driver here. It will automatically assign a ternit driver. However, it might not necessarily be the best one. So let's try and boot it. So anytime you boot a game in... Ooh, it failed to download, so I'll just need to... So go to PC games, settings, and then we'll scroll down and incompatibility. I will download that turnip driver. There we go. And now I'll try launching it. So if you've used GameHub Lite before, or Game Native, or any PC emulator, then it will usually have to download some first-time installation files. And then once it's done that the first time, the subsequent boots are usually a bit quicker. So we have got our system analytics there, which I usually do turn off, so I forgot to do that. I'll do that shortly. So hopefully we should boot. There we go. So one thing to note as well is if you swipe in from the right, so because this is a Windows PC game, it will detect the controller, but it thinks it's an Xbox gamepad. So if you swipe in from the right, you'll get this little THAW menu. So I'm going to tap gamepad, and I'm going to change it from follow global to Xbox style. And then this means that when I press B or X, as it would be on a PlayStation controller, it will be there. So we'll just set it to American Wasteland. There is a lot of their own custom physics and things like that in here, but just for the purposes of this, I'll just leave them on the defaults. And there's all sorts of pop-ups you get. So it's a 16:9. So if I swipe in from the left, I'll get this little screen as well that for some reason pops up on the right. So if I tap the little heart monitor looking thing, and then I'm going to disable that HUD display, and that will get rid of the analytics that were on the bottom. So we'll just boot into classic mode just to get in there nice and quickly. We'll do a level from Tony Hawk's 2. So one of the great things about ReTHAWed is it has tons of other levels from a lot of the other games. Still waiting for Tony Hawk's Underground though, because that has the best levels. But we'll just jump into a game here. So I am playing this muted just because of, obviously, licensed music. But as you can see, it runs pretty well. Obviously, there's extra tweaks you can do to really get the most out of it. Temperature-wise, we're running at about 76, 77 degrees Celsius. So it's not going to damage your CPU in the long term. The fan has kicked up a little bit. But obviously, this is essentially a PC game running on a handheld. And you can adjust the graphics settings to be a little bit more, bit kinder on the GPU. So this is ReTHAWed running, having set it up via PC. So what I'll do now, I won't do the full setup again because it took ages. I will show you how to install this if you don't have a PC, which will take a lot longer. So like I said at the start, if you do have a PC, then I'd advise using that. See you shortly. Okay, so I've downloaded the games directly onto my device using the exact same links that I did for the PC version, or on the PC. It's the same exact Windows version. So if you go to OBTAINIUM, you're going to need somewhere. We're going to use WinLater CMod. So this is another PC emulator, or this one, it's a bit more like a kind of Windows environment. So it's just a little bit easier to manage the updater and things like that. It could be worth also having an installation anyway, as it's much easier to update using this. You also, if you go to the Google Play Store, you want this app called Z Archiver or Z Archiver, which is just going to extract the zip files for us, and it seems infinitely faster than the built-in extraction. So we'll go to Z Archiver. So in my downloads folder, I'm going to get my Thor portable. I'm going to press the extract, and then I need to select a destination folder. So I've just made a little folder called TH, just so I don't clash with the one I've already got installed. And I'm just going to tap this little kind of arrow just next to me here, this little arrow thing. And then we'll give that a moment. Okay, that's done. We're going to do the same just with the ReTHAWed installer as well. So we'll pop that in our TH folder. So we have, in this folder, we've got our game, the launcher, which was just to launch the game initially on PC, and our updater. So what we're now going to do is we're going to head over to WinLater. I'm going to press Allow. We're going to let it do its initial setup, installing its system files, because basically what we're going to have to do is set up a container. Now, you can also use this to play games. However, the setup is extremely manual. So I'd advise that if you want to play your PC games, whether they're from Steam or other sources, then Game Native and GameHub are your best efforts. But this does give us a little bit more granular control. Okay, so we're going to grant all the necessary permissions as well. So we need to make a container. So I'm going to press the little plus button in the top. I'm going to leave all this just as the default because it's not a container to actually run a game. It's just to run the installation. Well, however, what I am going to do, if we come down here and we go to our drives. So you can see here, there are two mounted drives. We've got our D drive and our E drive, a bit like you'd have in your computer. However, it's only mounted the download part of that. We want that TH folder. So I can go into here and just change that to TH, or I can press this little folder icon and then I can just select the folder that way. So we'll use that TH folder and now it will mount that to the container so we can actually see what's in there. So I don't think there's anything I need to do in advance. No, I will press the little tick button and then this is our container. So you can call it ReTHAWed if you have more than one. So I'll probably do that just for ease. So ReTHAWed, there we go. And then we'll press the little play button. Don't need to worry about setting up a controller for it because we are just going to use this basically as a kind of portable PC. So there we are. So you just drag your finger over your touchscreen. And then if we go down to our start menu, we go to System Tools. So the first thing we need to do is install Gecko and Mono. So we're going to tap Install the Wine Gecko installer. Click Install. Give that a moment. If you don't have these, then when you try and boot the updater, it just won't, nothing will happen. So you need to make sure that you have these. So they're basically extra compatibility layers and a lot of the dependencies that the updater has. It shouldn't take too long. There we go. So now we're going to go to our computer. So just like a normal computer, it works the same. So for our D drive, which is what we mounted that folder to, if we open up the D drive, we should see that folder that we mounted. So we're just going to launch the updater. Same as we did on the PC. We're going to select our exe, and then we're going to go back to our D drive, go into the game folder, and then grab the American Wasteland. It'll ask you to confirm, so we can just do yes. And it'll download the file list, and then it'll start running the updates. Now, it will take a while, just as it did on the PC. So 332 bundles, because it's not dependent on your internet speed. It's just, it has to download so many files. So I'm going to actually cancel this one because I've already installed it. But once you've done that, all you need to do is the exact same step as I did with the GameHub Lite. You just need to point it at that exe, which will, in this case, be the same exact path, just in that whatever folder you've saved it to. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. You can also join my Discord, which will be linked below. So if you're into gaming or emulation or just want to be part of a community where if you're new to the hobby and you just want to kind of share a bit of knowledge with others or receive a bit of knowledge, then I fully advise it. Everyone's welcome. So, yep, I'd appreciate a like, appreciate a subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.